Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this next day, day 16, actually, of our Meander Through March Madness. I'm Laura Serrant, and I'm an inclusive practice specialist and a leadership development coach. And I'm sharing with you some of my musings, my thoughts, my reflections, and even the ramblings of my mind around leadership, business ownership, and actually how we lead as people and ourselves. And as we go through the alphabet to help us frame our conversation, we have reached the letter O. And the letter O stands for open or openness. Now, openness is a bit of a tricky word, really. When I looked it up, many of the definitions really talked about it as an opposition to closed, an opposition or the opposite of not being set in our minds, not being fixed in our thinking, and actually being open. That is, being available and not limited in our thoughts, in our actions, or in our response to opportunities. Ultimately, openness is about how we approach the views and the ideas of other people. Do we see these as a challenge to ourselves? And particularly as leaders or business owners, do we see it as something which might undermine our very sense of who we are? Or do we see openness as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to perhaps be exposed to something different to what we take to be true, or an opportunity to think? Openness is about our willingness to listen, to be influenced, and to consider different ideas or different opinions than the ones that we already know. Openness requires a level of bravery. It calls for us to take the risk that our minds may be changed, that our belief systems may be challenged, or that something else, as yet unknown, could be proven. Openness requires us to be honest with ourselves as well as with other people. Because in that space of openness, there is the opportunity to grow. Our willingness to hear, to weigh up opposing ideas, to actually give a fair consideration to differing views from our own, is what sometimes challenges us as human beings. Openness is what allows us to stretch, to think, and also to be curious about our reactions to an opposing view or a different opportunity. Our willingness to change and to be changed by different experiences is a reflection of the level of openness that we have with ourselves and with our teams. There are a few factors, or human traits, I suppose, which go along with openness and that enable us to be more open in different situations. Curiosity is central to openness. How much do we question? How much do we want to know different and seek out different experiences, different people, and different options? Our openness is also a reflection of how compassionate or how accepting we are of difference and variation. If we are somebody who is set in a little bit of a frenzy, if there isn't a routine and a prediction about what happens, openness can sometimes be very, very difficult. But openness is also a reflection of our ability to listen. We've talked about listening previously in March Madness. And it's listening to not just what is being said, but what is being communicated, and listening to ourselves about how we feel about the things that are happening. And openness requires us to actually have a spirit of adventure, the push to the unknown, the unmeasured, and perhaps the even not unconsidered. Invention and the inventive nature of the human mind depends on its level of openness. If we didn't have openness in ourselves and in other human beings, we would cease to progress. There's nothing so open, I think, as a small child who greets the world with abandon, good or bad, who seeks out to understand, to feel, to touch, to smell, to live, to experience the world with everything they have. But as we get older and as we develop, it's very easy for our openness to shrink. It's equally easy for us to even shrink the openness of other people. And we can kid ourselves that it's for their own safety. So that leads me to another factor around openness, and that's the ability to reflect and be reflective. Curiosity, reflection, and questioning of the world around us and our own internal world and measure is key to our understanding of how open we actually are, as opposed to how open we think we may be. Knowing that you don't have the answer, or knowing that your answer is not the only answer, leaves space for our growth. And the bravery comes in being able to risk having your beliefs changed or modified by the experiences. Openness has within it a level of fear, anxiety, and possibly even just a little anxiousness. But the fear from openness is not something to be resisted. Rather than avoid them or rather than deny them, openness requires us to face those fears, to understand ourselves in the light of the things that scare us, the light of the things that challenge our beliefs or challenge the way that we think things should be done, and know these things well. Getting to know our fears and understanding ourselves as fully open human beings is the first step to fully recognizing what kind of leader we are, what kind of business owner we are, and ultimately what kind of human contribution we can make. I'll see you tomorrow.